Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Emma and I make a wide range of content from just lifestyle vlogs, mom content, and I also run my own home bakery, so there's a lot of bakery content to come as well. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my birth story with our daughter Nadia. I'm sure some of you have seen my Instagram posts of her and her newborn photos that we got done. Our lovely photographer that has now been a part of our journey for a year. She did our wedding photos, she did our maternity photos, she did our newborn photos. She will be doing some family photos of us in the future, and when I graduate from college, she'll be just doing, you know, all of our milestones with us, because we've just grown that relationship with her and absolutely adore her. And we couldn't ask for a more amazing photographer to capture our beautiful girl. As you can see, I'm in our nursery and it is still not finished. Eventually we will get it done. We had a very rough last week of my pregnancy. And honestly, we were told that I was going to go even longer than I did, but we'll get into it. But I just want to start off by saying trigger warning to anyone who doesn't like anything that is like talking about birth and talking about just scary things related to birth. There will be a lot of talk about that in this video. And throughout the video, I'm going to show different clips of just real raw moments of when it was all going down. This, as I'm making this video for you guys, she'll be 3 months old tomorrow, so it's been a while, and I've honestly been putting this video off. I kept saying I was gonna do it, and honestly it's just been so hard to really find the words, and I'm still kind of dealing with it. It was very honestly traumatic, and it was not the way that I wanted it to go. I'm already crying, geez. Yeah, I'll just get right into it. So to start off, basically, I was working Monday, Tuesday. I always had Wednesdays off to go to appointments, things like that I needed. And this particular Wednesday, I had my 40-week checkup. My 40 weeks wasn't technically until Thursday, but that's when I had available, was the Wednesday. And after my 40-week appointment, I had my physical therapy appointment, because if you don't know, I have a knee injury currently. And so I would go to a chiropractor and physical therapist regularly. Anyways, so I went to my 40-week checkup. Everything had been going great up until this point, and oh my goodness, you just spit up everywhere. I go in for my 40-week appointment. Every appointment they check my blood pressure. That's one of the first things that they do. I obviously check my weight, and I only had done one ultrasound because it was only required once at my birth center, because they are very non-invasive and they really want to do it on what you want. I was supposed to get another ultrasound the following week so at my 41-week appointment, I was supposed to get another ultrasound. That obviously did not happen, but anyways, I go to my appointment. My blood pressure has always been like borderline, and that was even before my pregnancy. My blood pressure has always been kind of higher, but not to the point where like it was an issue, and I was never diagnosed with preeclampsia. It was always something that they had talked about to let them know if you're having any of these symptoms related to it, outside of the blood pressure. And I wasn't, other than like my ankles were swelling, but that was pretty normal. Like my feet were pretty swollen towards the end of my pregnancy. But I didn't really have any of the other symptoms. I couldn't ever really tell my blood pressure was higher because, again, like that was normal for me. I go into my last appointment, my 40-week checkup, and right away they say, your blood pressure is pretty high today. And so sometimes when it's been on the higher end, they always had to use like a manual cuff on me instead of like their electrical ones, or they had to use a very specific cuff on me because some, like the other ones would read higher on me, and then some of them, you know, everyone's different. One thing is not going to work universally for everyone. You have to use different sizes, different things for different people. So I had them make sure they were using the right cuff. And then they always, like if it was on the higher end, they would usually check again within 15 minutes. So I would just hang out and relax and calm down. So they did that again, where they checked within 15 minutes, but then they were like, okay, it's still pretty high. So we need you to come in 24 hours. So you're gonna have to come in tomorrow, and just so you know, it's very likely that you will be transferred to the hospital, and having your baby tomorrow. And I was like, what? Like, I was so scared. This is something that the entire pregnancy I was so worried about. Now let's backtrack a little bit, because if some of you may know, some of you are probably new here, so you probably don't know, but when I was younger, I was told that I was probably not going to be able to have kids, and if I did, that I would have a very high-risk pregnancy. My baby might not make it, or my baby might have a seizure issue in the future, because I had seizures as a kid. And God forbid that ever happens to my baby, where she'll, like, God forbid she has those issues in the future, but I never even thought that I could get pregnant. And so hearing this, like, absolutely just terrified me, because I had seizures in the past, like, this was their biggest concern with me, was preeclampsia, because if your blood pressure reaches a certain point, you are at risk of having a stroke or a seizure. And like, if it didn't get figured out when it did, like, I could have had a seizure, and like, worst case scenario, me or my daughter could have died. So this, like, thought, like, absolutely terrified me. And like, I was like, okay, I need to stay strong. Like, I need to relax today. Like, I need to just, like, calm down and try to get my blood pressure to go back to normal, like, to get lower. And, you know, honestly, and I went to my physical therapist appointment, and they even said, they're like, there's nothing really you can do. Like, you can try, but you're not going to change it in 24 hours. And also what really scared me is I did not want to have her at a hospital. For one, financial reasons, but for two is I don't trust hospitals. I really don't. We were going through our midwife clinic, and in the case that my blood pressure was too high, they would not have helped me anymore for the rest of my pregnancy. Like, I could not have my baby there. I could not have my baby at home. I could not have a midwife with me because of my preeclampsia. And that scared the living crap out of me, because I hate hospitals, and I'm gonna go into more why, based off of how my situation went. But we leave the appointment, and We had time in between that appointment and our next appointment, and in the area, like just down the road from where our next appointment was, there's a little strip mall, and in that strip mall is a Once Upon a Child store, which has been my favorite store since I became pregnant, and we've gotten quite a few clothes from there for our daughter, and just super affordable and super great store. Love it. My husband was like, without telling me, just like pulled into the parking lot of the store and was like, this will cheer you up. And I was like, okay. I thank God for an amazing husband like I have, because I don't know honestly what I would have done in this time without him. Like, he's been super supportive, and just, I don't have great family. Like, I don't have a lot of family that is really supportive, so it was really great to just have him and be of support. His family was all obviously like praying. Like, our families were obviously like praying, but they're hours away, so we don't have a lot of close family to like come out and help us. So the next day comes around. I'm 40 weeks officially. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I couldn't barely sleep, to be honest. We packed up our car. Like, we knew, but we packed up our car with like our stroller and our car seat and our bags, and literally not everything that I really wanted to pack. I had kind of been putting it off because the previous week our midwife said, oh yeah, you'll probably go for another couple weeks. You'll probably have to be induced like later on, like, because you're gonna be so far in pregnancy. Like, don't stress. I don't think that you're gonna have your baby early. I don't think that your baby's coming right now. And I had like some Braxton Hicks contractions, but nothing too serious, like nothing that ever really made me go into labor. But yeah.
Good morning. Probably getting induced today. I'm 40 weeks as of today. But I went in yesterday. My blood pressure was high, so I'm going in again today. And if it is, then I have to be induced at the hospital instead of going the route that I was hoping for at the birth center. So, very unfortunate, but keep you updated.
So we went back to my midwife center, and I sat in the room that we would have had our baby in and just had to wait until we could find the hospital to go to because my blood pressure was too high. The one that was closest by, we wanted to go to a children's hospital with a nice mother-baby center. I grew up in the children's hospital, so like I trusted that should be an okay hospital for us to go to. And so the first hospital, the nearest one, the mother-baby center was full. So we had to go to the other one. So on the drive there, my husband just puts on music and we kind of just sit in silence. Like, we're happy that we're gonna be having our baby, but it's just not how we wanted it to go at all. We get there and I give them my transfer paperwork. We check in and the place is literally empty. My husband and I are sitting down. This is June 5th, by the way. My actual, like, exact due date. This was my due date. We're sitting down in the waiting room. I'm kind of just scrolling to kind of just get my mind off of it. get into the room. We're doing vitals, so I had to do a urine sample, blood test, all my regular vitals. I'm hooked up to a blood pressure cuff the entire time. I am hooked up to a heart rate monitor for my baby the entire time. Baby's great. They're also monitoring my contractions. Apparently I was having really strong ones, but I did not feel a single thing. They give me a blood pressure pill as soon as I get there, because it was even worse when we got there. They did a cervical check, which again, like, I did not love, because we were going to a midwife clinic that was not invasive, and it's not the safest, and I was bleeding a lot after I had my cervical check. At this point, we're just in the first room that you go into just to get all the checks. This is before I'm being admitted into the hospital, basically. And the doctor that we got was a guy doctor. So first of all, did not love that, because the guy's getting all up in my business, and I don't really like that at all. And he is so rude. My husband is sitting there like asking questions, trying to get information, trying to understand everything that's going on. I'm stressed out, so like honestly, he's my spokesperson. He's trying to speak for me. He's trying to be like the person that, like I said, like in that moment, I need you to be the one. Like, if I cannot speak for myself, you need to speak for me. And he knew what I didn't want. He knew what I wanted. And he's trying to speak for me, and this man is yelling at him and basically saying, like, your wife needs this. Your wife is going to die, basically, and your baby's at risk. Like, you need to be okay with this. And he's like, it's not that I'm not okay with it. I just want all the information. And so it was just, we were just so frustrated with this doctor, and not feeling heard, and not anything that we wanted to go on was going on. And they send the midwives in from the hospital, not the midwives that I had ever worked with, but I trusted the midwives at our clinic, and I was like, I trust you if you tell me these are good midwives. So they send them in, and they're like trying to help me calm down, and they're like, I just want you to know that you are now diagnosed officially with severe preeclampsia. And unfortunately, because of the severity of it, we cannot be of service to you, and we cannot be there for your birth. So I just felt like I didn't really have anybody at the hospital, like in my corner. And I had to deal with this rude doctor, and I was like, I can't, like, I don't want to have this baby here. Like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm just praying that my blood pressure just somehow just stabilizes and I'm fine and I can go back to the birth center. And then we get admitted into the hospital.
Alright, so update. Not at all to plan, but we were at the hospital. Been here for about 3, in the labor room for about 3 hours, but it's here longer than that. I randomly out of nowhere got diagnosed with severe preeclampsia, and didn't have any symptoms, don't have any symptoms other than test results. And I'm on a magnesium IV, took blood pressure medication because my blood pressure is way too high, and just started induction meds. So because I was in severe state cannot have a midwife anymore. And yeah, so a little unfortunate that the birth plan had to change. Because we're no longer at a birth center. But I'm not in labor yet. But contractions are apparently 2 to 4 minutes apart. I don't feel them, but they're monitoring them. And yeah, I'm just exhausted from all the meds. So, baby's doing great. Just my body is not safe for her to be in there any longer. So, yeah, I'll update you again later.
So our first night there, we did not have a dog sitter. The person that we had originally asked was unavailable that weekend, so we were like, darn it, like all of our plans, like how are we gonna do this? We don't have a dog sitter, we don't have family close by, what are we gonna do? So my husband calls his friend and he was like, you can stay at our place, you can eat our food, but like we really need someone to watch our dog. Obviously you have work, but like feel free to use our TV, play video games, like just make yourself at home. But like we're being told that we're going to be in the hospital for a while. And so luckily he went there. So our first night, we didn't have anyone there, so my husband had to, like, I had to be at the hospital myself, and my husband had to drive over an hour just to get home, feed the dog, let her out, get her comfortable, help her feel safe, and like understand that we weren't coming home. And then he had to drive all the way back. Like, he had to grab his stuff because he didn't really grab very much stuff because he was not, again, we weren't planning to sleep overnight anywhere. When we had packed our stuff, it was for the midwife clinic, and like you only go there when you're like far enough along, and then after you have the baby you're only there for like 4 to 6 hours after that, and then you go home, and then you come back 24 hours later for the newborn screenings. So what we had packed wasn't stuff for overnight, and so luckily like I could just wear the gowns. I didn't really need clothing, but we needed like toiletries, he needed clothing, he needed stuff to sleep with because the couch there honestly was not comfortable. He would have had like a legitimate bed at our midwife center too, so like that was kind of frustrating. So I'm just sitting there by myself. As you saw from that clip, I was just by myself, just kind of in a quiet room. I was hooked up to a blood pressure cuff 24/7. I was hooked up to the heart rate monitor 24/7, apparently having, again, terrible contractions that I could not feel, and the nurses were like, are you serious? You can't feel these? I'm like, don't know what to tell you. Oh, I forgot to mention, when they did the cervical check, when I first got there, they couldn't even reach my cervix, so I was not dilated at all. Like, I was nowhere close to being into labor. They gave me, like every 4 hours when they would come in and do my blood pressure checks, they put me on magnesium. Sorry, I'm missing a lot of information. They put me on a magnesium IV, which made me super sick and super weak. I couldn't get out of bed on my own. I ended up waking up in the middle of the night and puking, and literally it was all over the floor because I couldn't make it to a trash can or the bathroom because I could barely walk. So the nurse came in and helped me. Like, they had someone come in and clean it up, and they helped me get back to bed, and like the magnesium was to help so that I wouldn't have a seizure, basically. And they were giving me like broken pieces of a induction pill each time that they would come in to check my blood pressure, basically until that pill was gone. That pill did nothing. I didn't dilate, I didn't get induced into labor at all. At this point, like, I couldn't be on any blood pressure meds because obviously I was still pregnant. My second day there, basically I didn't get any sleep because they were coming in every couple hours to check on me and check my blood pressure and give me induction pills. But my second day there, I had a new doctor, thank goodness. Still not my favorite doctor, but she listened and she gave us good information. And the nurse that started with her, because like they switched shifts, so the nurse that was on shift with her was absolutely amazing. And honestly, I'm so glad she was there. I actually felt like I had someone in my corner when like she came in, because she would listen to me, she would hang out with me, she would just check in on me all the time and make sure I was okay. She actually like listened about, she's like, I know this is not your birth plan, I know this is nothing like what you wanted. And she was a mom, like a new mom, so she like understood how like scared I was, really. She's like, do you have a written birth plan? And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was gonna need one, because I had like sat down and like talked with my midwives and they were 100% on the same side of the page as me the entire time. Like I didn't need one. So my one piece of advice is like, no matter what your plan is, like if you're giving birth at home, if you are giving birth at a, like if you're planning to give birth wherever, always have a written birth plan, because without one, your voice does not matter. If there was, God forbid, something were to happen and you were in an emergency situation, your voice wouldn't matter unless you had an actual physical written birth plan. And that's really unfortunate, because it was my birth, it's supposed to go my way, it was supposed to be my baby, my situation. And in the morning my husband had to go again, and I was just sitting there doing homework, trying to keep my mind off everything. I wasn't feeling any of the contractions, so it wasn't like I was in pain. I was just super weak and feeling super sick. But my husband had to come back home to let his friend in, give him a key, kind of tell him the ins and outs of everything for the dog and everything about the house, basically. Talk to him about what's going on. I was on the phone with him at one point, and our neighbor had stopped over because he was outside, and my husband was like, I just want you to be aware, this is what's going on, this is our friend, he's safe, like he's allowed to be here, he's gonna be watching our dog for us while we're gone at the hospital. It seems like we're probably gonna be there for a little bit. And he was like, how is she doing? Like I could hear it on the phone, like, how is Emma, how's she doing? And we had just met this guy a month before. So like, just so sweet. Like he was like, how's she doing? How's it going? And he's like, honestly, not great. And he just kind of explained it all to him and like how it wasn't what we wanted. And he knew that we had planned on having her at our center. Like, we were really excited about it. And my husband that morning when we talked to the doctor, he's like, she said like, hey, we're gonna start you on Pitocin to start inducing you. Just letting you know we're gonna do that at some point today. And he was like, can you please wait until after I like come back from going back to the house to let my friend in, basically. And so, or at least like on the way, because it wasn't gonna progress that soon. So when he was on his way back, I called in the doctor and I said, hey, he's on his way back, we can start the Pitocin. Yeah, again, just an IV drip, so wasn't that crazy, but still made me feel super weak. Fast forward to the next morning, or at like 4 in the morning. They checked how dilated I was. I had not progressed. And they said, okay, we're gonna stop Pitocin. We're gonna give you a few hours off of it because you're on the highest dose of it. And then we're gonna start it up again in a few hours. So at like 7:30 in the morning, they came in, started me up on it again. And this was the 7th at this point, so this was June 7th. And after a couple hours, they came in and checked me again, and they said, you're 3 centimeters dilated. And they checked my blood pressure, and they said, your blood pressure is still super high. At this point, like, we need to do something. And they said, basically, like, your options at this point are, we're gonna do an emergency C-section, or we're gonna forcefully break your water. And I didn't want either option. I just wanted to have my baby my way, naturally, exactly as it was supposed to be, exactly as God intended it to be. And I was like, if this is my only option, I refuse to do a C-section. If this is my only option, you can break my water. And then again, like, so they talked about, and I had a different doctor again at this point, and a new nurse. Didn't really like. At this point, they're like talking about something that I had talked about with my midwives. I was gonna do a risk-based approach. So basically, like, because during my pregnancy, I had tested positive for group B strep. And if you're in labor for a really long time, basically that means that there's a potential that it could transfer to your child. But the percentage is very minimum. So I was like, okay, we're gonna do a risk-based approach, as my midwife basically said that is perfectly fine. Like, it's not that serious. I'm also allergic to amoxicillin, so I couldn't get the amoxicillin for that anyways. But the regular approach is that they would give me amoxicillin before, like, once I went into labor, so that way it couldn't pass on. Again, same percentage that it could pass on regardless. Obviously, I couldn't have amoxicillin, so they're like, here's the alternative medication that you would have if you decided to do this, but the chance of it helping is a lot lower anyways. So I didn't really want to do it. We were set on a risk-based method. And the doctor was like, here's the research I just did for you. Here's a bunch of papers. Read through this. I really recommend and I really highly think that you should take this medication. And protect your baby. And I was like, girl, I'm telling you, this is not what I want to do. Well, girl did not listen. Girl pushed it. They were very much med pushers. And so I took the alternative, not amoxicillin, but the alternative medication. So she started that IV, broke my water at around 9 a.m. And at that point, excruciating pain hit my body. I was bleeding so much. I was in so much pain. And it did not help that, like, I was on the highest dose of Pitocin, so that causes your pain to be worse. And I was like, I can't do this. This is not how I wanted it to go. This is not what I wanted. I am in so much pain. I was talking to my husband and he looked so concerned. I was passing out in between contractions. I was doing all the different labor positions I knew. Basically, she checked baby's position, and she was like facing down. Like her head was down, but she was facing down, and she's supposed to be facing up. And so she was like, try all these different positions. I was trying the things I learned at my midwife center to try and get her in the right position, to try and flip her. I was sitting on the toilet like backwards. I was also like going to the bathroom a lot. So if you are ever pregnant and in labor and wondering if you are like pooping, or if you're afraid like that you're gonna be pooping, you're gonna be pooping. Like, girl, you cannot control it. Like, they had to clean me like nonstop just because it was like an infection thing, but I was out. Like, I was out of it. I was passing out, blacking out in between each contraction I was having. I was having really hard contractions. I honestly don't even know how long they were lasting, but I would pass out and then one would start again. At one point, they checked my hemoglobin levels, and the lady that came in didn't speak very much English, and my husband was like, she's having a contraction. Please do not prick her with your needle right now. She did not want to listen. Eventually, she did, because he had to yell at her to listen, but unfortunately, like, he had to yell at her, but yeah, I was like, don't touch me with your needle. The nurse was strongly recommending that I get the epidural, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna do this epidural. Like, I don't know what to do, because I could not do the laughing gas, which, like, that would have been like my pain management at the midwife center, if I absolutely needed pain management. But because of my condition, I could not, and I was very frustrated about it. So my only option was the epidural. Just before I was about to get the epidural, and thank God it took so long for them to do my hemoglobin checks, which I passed, but luckily, thank God it took them so long, because God was telling me, girl, you do not need pain management. This is the one thing you said you did not want to do, that you were absolutely not doing. You are not getting this pain management. So it took them so long to test my hemoglobin levels, that I was 9 centimeters dilated already, and it was too late for them to give me the epidural. And I was in so much pain. I was crying. I was screaming. I could not do it. The nurse kept telling me not to push. I'm like, girl, my body's just doing that. Like, I am not trying to push. My body is just doing that during every contraction that I'm having. And during one of my contractions, again, I did not try, but I pushed, and her head started coming out. And the nurse walked by because she was like, I'm gonna check how dilated you are, if that's okay, see if you're still at 9 centimeters. And as soon as I spread my legs for this woman, there was a little head. And she goes, oh, I'm gonna call the doctor because I just saw your baby's head. And I looked at my husband and he looked at me and we held each other's hands, and I was like, having a baby? And he's like, we're having a baby right now. And I was like, I gotta do it. I was in so much pain, but I was like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it for her. I'm holding his hand. The doctor's running in, getting all ready. Everyone's running around at this point. And then the nurse that was there the day before, that I absolutely loved, who was so supportive, came in. And everyone else, I was like careless about them. But this nurse came in and she stood right next to me on the other side, opposite of my husband. Like, my husband was here, she was there. And she held on to me and she goes, Emma, you're doing it. Emma, you got this. Emma, you're doing it. You're about to have a baby. You're gonna do it. You're doing a great job. I'm so proud of you. And I was like, she is exactly what I needed right now. Like, I got my husband and I got her. I can ignore everyone else. I at least have someone in the hospital on my side right now. My husband, sweet man, was there, super supportive, awesome the entire time. He looked and he was like, oh my gosh, that is insane. I could see her head coming out and it's squished, and oh my gosh, there's a lot of blood. Are you okay? And was like, I'm so proud of you. You're doing it. We're having a baby. You're awesome. Your body's amazing. Like, super supportive of me. For what felt like ever was actually only like 3 hours that I was in labor. I had my baby at 12:51 p.m. that day. After having her, she was on my chest for a little bit. I had my husband wait till the cord was white to cut the cord. He cut it because I trusted him. The only shot we gave her was vitamin K, just because that was what we agreed upon at our midwife center. That is the only vaccine or shot we will ever be giving our kid. And of course, the nurse that we really appreciated and loved was the one to administer it, and she took her, she weighed her. She did get too cold a few times, so she kept having to take her and put her in the warmer box, but my husband was right there with her, and it was the nurse that we loved. At that point, I was very out of it and bleeding a lot. She stitched me up. I had a 2nd-degree tear. Oh, I also delivered my placenta like really soon after. That thing was huge, by the way. They put it on the table next to me to show me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's huge. That's the size of my baby. She was 7 pounds, 15 ounces. Ended up losing a lot of weight. So we've had a lot of weight issues with her. Still dealing with that. Has some reflux issues, and that's honestly very common for women that are induced for their babies to have that going on. They had me get up like really soon after, and I told them I didn't feel good and that I didn't want to right away because they said you have to go to the bathroom, and I almost passed out, and because they weren't listening to me. And then we had to try again with like kind of like a wheelchair, but one that would collapse so I could sit on the toilet. And then after that, we were transferred to the other room. They basically rushed me so I could get out of that room that I was in, so they could clean it and get it ready, which I don't know why, but obviously for other people, but why? Literally, why do you have to rush me out of there? We get to the other room, and every 4 hours I'm being woken up to take blood pressure meds. I also had to take, I still had to be on magnesium for 24 hours after I had her, and I had to take a pill that basically helped me get rid of all the extra water in me, because part of the preeclampsia, they also tested for a protein in my urine. The protein content in your urine while you're pregnant is supposed to be less than 0.6, and I had 6.6. So that was also why they were like, you have severe preeclampsia, because that was very, very much. So they had to give me this pill so that basically, and I had to go to the bathroom frequently. Like, I had to tell them the times I was going to the bathroom, and I had to have like a measuring thing in the bathroom so that when I peed, basically, they could see how much was coming out to see if I was getting enough of it coming out, which luckily I did. I lost a lot of weight right away. She passed all her newborn screenings the next day, and the doctor basically said, like, we're not discharging you. You need to be in here for another week until your blood pressure is stabilized. So then the next day, Monday, the last doctor that I had, she's like, you can go home. I trust you you're not like in a place right now where you're so severe that you're gonna have a seizure or a stroke. I'm not worried about it. I trust you to take your meds on your own at home and check your own blood pressure every 4 hours. So she let me go home, and instead of being there for another week, because that would have been expensive, so we finally got to take our baby home on June 9th, and every 4 hours I had to take my blood pressure and take my meds. And I was on 2 pills, so I was on a lot. And then 2 weeks later, I finally got an appointment. So we had her pediatrician appointment because we were checking on her weight. So we had 2 pediatrician appointments her first week, and she was able to gain enough back basically in that week for them to not be concerned. But now it's a concern again because she's not making like enough weight again because she's spitting up so much. But 2 weeks after, I was able to get my appointment with her clinic. It's a family clinic, and the doctor checked my blood pressure, and he goes, you know what, I trust you to wean yourself off. If you don't feel comfortable with where your blood pressure is at, like if it's too low, you break off a half piece and you do 1.5, and then if it seems normal or too low, then you do that. If it's too high, then go back up to what you were taking before. So for like 2 or 3 days, I was weaning myself off, and then it got so low, and I woke my husband up. I was like, I think this is really low, and he's like, then you just stop taking them. And my blood pressure's been fine. I did a 6-week postpartum checkup, and everything was filled up. Everything was fine. I got to like go back to my midwife center, and sadly I didn't get to do the 2-week checkup with them because I was on blood pressure meds, but I was able to do the 6-week and get to talk to them basically about my hospital experience. And I told them, I'm like, I'm never doing that again. The risk for it to happen again in a pregnancy once you've already have it is very low, so it's like they aren't seeing it as a common thing. But my husband and I have both agreed that we are going through our birth center for our second one because we really appreciated the experience with them, and we absolutely hated our experience with hospital. And we just wanted to be heard, and we just wanted to feel loved and cared for there, and we only had like one person there that we really felt that with. But the greatest thing out of all of it, despite our challenges and the trauma that we faced, we got this cute little bane out of it. Can you say hi? Say hi. Say my name's Nadia Emma. Say I'm a very pretty girl. Oh, and we just lost the passy. We're always losing your passies. We still haven't found the other one from last night. Say I'm a very pretty girl and my parents love me. Yeah. So, we have this awesome human, and that is all that matters. We're very blessed with you. Yeah. Alright. Well, if you stayed for this entire video, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for watching. Can't wait for our next journey with you guys, with the baby. Obviously, she's not going to be on camera very much. Yeah, that's her saying, it's time to go, Mom. But please make sure you leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. And we will see you in the next video.